Hello, and welcome to Unit 1 of Introduction to Algebra, which is the pre-algebra review. So within this unit, we have 4 lessons: Introduction to Variables, Combining Like Terms, Equal Expressions, and Fractions in Algebra. So we are going to be starting off with Lesson 1, which is Introduction to Variables. What is a variable? A variable is a symbol or letter which represents an unknown or changing numerical value. In algebra, we often represent them using x, y, or z, and while variables have several different uses, we are going to be focusing on their use in algebraic expressions and equations. So let's look at some examples of variables. Within this algebraic expression, x, p, and y are all variables, as they are letters which represent numbers that we don't know the value of. As we can see, the value of x is being multiplied with 2, the value of p is being multiplied with 3, and the value of y is being multiplied with 10. So when we solve algebraic equations, the goal or the reason we are solving is to find what the value of these variables are. We will be looking more into that in just a moment, but first let's go over some basic terminology of algebraic equations. A term is a single number, variable, or the product of a number and variable. So we can see that 10 is being multiplied by the variable x, which means that 10x is a term. Now, an expression is two or more terms with an arithmetic operations between them. So we can see that 2x is one term, 3 squared is another term, and they have a subtraction sign between them. So the difference between an expression and a term is that while 10x is not being added to, subtracted, multiplied, or divided with any other term, 2x is being subtracted with 3 squared, which is why this is an expression, because we have an arithmetic operation in between. And then we have our variable, which is x, and in this case, since we have one letter or the same symbol representing the unknown values, the value of this x is the same as the x over here. Meanwhile, a coefficient is a number or a constant value which is being multiplied by a variable. So over here our coefficient would be 10, and over here our coefficient would be 2. An algebraic equation equates to algebraic expressions, or in this case, an expression and a term. So basically what this is doing is setting 2x minus 3 squared equal to 10x. Here are some practice problems. So we want to identify the variables in each of these following expressions. Remember that a variable is a letter or a symbol that represents an unknown numerical value. So can you look for the letter that is representing a number we don't know in these equations? So over here we have 4x plus 5. The variable we can see is x because it is not represented by any number as of now. We need to find that number, and x is simply representing the unknown value of that number. Same goes for 2 minus 3a, our variable is a. And then in 7y plus 8z, our variables are y and z. And keep in mind that y and z do not have the same value, as they are represented by two different symbols. So now we are going to learn how to solve for the variable in each of the following equations. So over here, basically, the goal of solving an algebraic equation, how you do it is you want to isolate the variable on one side of the equal sign and the numbers on the other side of the equal sign. So what that means is I want to keep x on one side of the equal sign, and I want to bring this 2 to the other side of the equal sign so that we can achieve that. So what I would have to do in this case, as this is a positive 2, we see no negative sign in front of it, I would have to subtract 2 from both sides of the equation in order to do so. So by subtracting 2 positive 2 minus 2 is 0, which means that we are not left with any number on this side of the equation. But whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do it to the other side as well, which means I would have to subtract 6 with 2 as well. So from here, we get 0 plus x, or just x, equals to 4. Anything plus 0 is itself, so our final answer is x equals to 4. Now we're going to do the same thing for this equation as well. So over here we see that there's a minus sign in front of x, which essentially makes x negative. So we always want x to be positive. So how we're going to go about this is, first we can subtract 7 from both sides, as we once again want the numbers on the other side of the equation, and this is a positive 7, so 7 minus 7 will be 0. And now we get 0 minus x equals to negative 3, or negative x equals to negative 3. And then since we want x to be positive, what we could do is we could multiply both sides of the equation by negative 1. So that way anything times 1 is itself, and two negatives multiplied make positive. So then we'll get x equals to 3. So this is our final answer for this equation. Now let's move on to our final equation. So over here we see that 3 is being multiplied by x, which means that in order to isolate the variable, we need to divide by 3. And we need to do the same thing on the other side of the equation as well. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, which means we can write that 1 times x equals to 6 divided by 3, which is 2. Now, since anything that is multiplied by 1 is itself, we can write that x equals to 2, and this will be our final answer for this equation. Now let's go back to these problems. So for the variable in the first expression, we got x. For the variable in the second expression, we got a. And for the variables in the third equation, we got y and z. And then we solved each of the equations. We got x equals to 4 for the first equation, x equals to 3 for the second equation, and x equals to 2 for the third equation. That is lesson 1 of this unit. Now let's move on to lesson 2.